What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Affairs of the Heart podcast. I'm your boy DQ, DWeezy, and SoDebNair is in the house. What's going on, SoDeb?
Hey, what's going on?
How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
You look like you are deer in headlights right now.
No.
It is another episode of the Affairs of the Heart podcast. This episode is going to be a little bit on the serious tip with a little bit of serious tones, but it's a conversation that I think is necessary for us. This episode is in accordance with Atlanta Black Pride's Domestic Violence Awareness Series, and it's Project Silent Voice, and it's sponsored by Atlanta Black Pride, Atlanta Pride, Swank Arts and Entertainment, and the Affairs of the Heart podcast. We are one episode of many that they're doing in this last week of October, because October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Today is also Spirit Day. I'm wearing purple. I'm sporting the purple in solidarity with GLAAD's and the LGBTQIA plus community. Spirit Day. Just giving you an update on National Spirit Day. 1 in 3 LGBTQ youths report that they have been physically threatened, or harmed in their lifetime due to the LGBTQ identity. More than half of transgender or non-binary youth have seriously considered suicide, and 71% of LGBTQ students have reported hearing homophobic remarks from teachers and or school staff because of their gender expression. So today we wear we wear purple in solidarity with them. And I think for us, this is something that we didn't have growing up. So it is an honor to stand in solidarity with them as we are said and are here. But today's episode is going to be all about domestic violence in our community, and something that you don't necessarily think and or consider when it comes to the LGBTQIA plus community, that we too experience domestic violence. And we'll dig into what that means, verbal assault, all kinds of things of that nature within the domestic violence realm. But before we get started, how was your week, Dad?
My week was crazy. It was very crazy, but I'm doing a lot better today. One thing I always say is, I know how to take a break. When things are getting crazy, I know how to take a break. And so, that's what I do for my own personal self-care. And so I did that. Actually, like, my body was shutting down because when a lot of things are happening or a lot of traumas happening, my body is like, sir, log off. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm good with that. I do that a lot. Even when it's just like when I'm with with my friends, I'm good for taking a break, because I think it's very important for us to understand our boundaries. So I think that it's good to know that. I talk about this on my channel a lot. I think I talked about it on the podcast channel as well. Knowing when to take a break is an amazing thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sometimes your mental health, well, not sometimes, your mental health is very important. And also just knowing what you can, what you cannot do is very important as well. So this week has been that for me. It's been self-care for me all week. And I'm feeling good. I was like, I need to make sure I'm here for Thursday. So we keep missing all kind of shows.
I was not gonna say anything. I was not gonna throw SoDebNair.
Well, you know what? I actually, when you told me last week, he was like, text easy. I did. And then when he responded, I think I was responding to someone else saying, well, no one responded back to me. And Easy was like, what? And I was like, oh man. So I never even sent my text to Easy. So that's why last week didn't happen.
Last week wasn't our fault, but it's all gravy. We're here. We've got a couple more shows left, but we definitely want to engage you guys and make sure you're here for this show. So if you're new to the show, you want to know how it works. Basically, if you're on our YouTube channel or our Facebook pages or wherever you're watching, make sure that you engage in the comments. If you have a story or something you want to share, we'll give you, that's the place for it. Share your stories in the comments. Let's talk about any topics. We are Black gay males that discuss love, sex, and relationship from a Black gay male's perspective. And this particular episode is going to be about domestic violence. And so we want to hear your experiences if you don't mind sharing. This is a safe space for anybody that wants to share. There is no bullying or any of that nature. This is a safe space for us to commune and have the conversations that we don't normally have within our community. So let's jump right into it. I see you guys are already lighting up the comments with your input and your shares. What's up, everybody? Everybody's in the room. What was said is going to pop it off for us really quickly. He said, I heard of a story where a man beat his lover up really bad. They broke up, but now they're back together and he beats the man up again. That is kind of a common story within our community as well, in regards to the oppressors being oppressed, and the oppressors being becoming the oppressor, or the aggressive becoming the aggressor, and et cetera, et cetera. And so unfortunately, we'll get into our personal experiences with domestic violence, and I think I'll start just to kind of get the conversation going, because I never start when we talk. So for me, I've never been in a physical altercation with a lover or past relationship situation. However, I have experienced verbal abuse, which obviously is a form of domestic violence. And I'll say it from this perspective. For me, it was kind of like I wanted a relationship so badly. And I wanted a relationship so badly, and I wanted to be with someone so badly that I allowed them to talk to me any kind of way, and to the point where I allowed rather their issues to then be projected onto me, and made excuses for their verbiage or their behavior. And I think that is a common space when it comes to verbal abuse in particular. Like every now and then you think, oh, they're just playing, or it's just a joke, or they've had a bad day, or maybe I just came at them wrong. Maybe it was me. You take on the reason behind the abuse. And I think that then becomes, a problem within itself, because you're making excuses for the behavior that you're allowing someone to project onto you, when in essence that is absolutely and totally wrong. And so for a while I allowed this person to talk to me any kind of way, and thinking that it was just because I wanted it so bad and I wanted to make it work. But in reality, they knew exactly what they were doing. And it wasn't until a really, really good friend of mine at the time said, you need to get out of this situation, because you're making excuses. You're pacifying the fact that they are verbally abusing you, and you think that's okay. It's not okay. What does verbal abuse look like? Calling you out of your name, and I don't want to use, because we're on our YouTube platform, I don't want to use as many of the examples as I can. However, if the person continuously calls you out of your name in a derogatory manner or a negative manner, and you have addressed it, and it still continues to happen, that's a problem. If everything is negative, there is no common ground, and no ability to be able to understand or commune or to connect with each other in that aspect, then you need to be able to address it. If you find yourself making excuses for them, oh, it was just this way, they didn't mean it, he was just joking, and the excuses continue, that's also a red flag and a problem. And so that's kind of where my experience led. What ended up happening in that relationship for me, I decided that that was it, and I just decided not to return to the relationship at all. It just so happened it was in a time of my life when I was in transition anyway, and I was leaving the place that I lived at the time, and I was moving somewhere else. So I just ended it, and walked away from it, which that's not everyone's story. So I can't necessarily say that, I can celebrate myself for that, but it really was a tough situation for me.
Now, is that the New York story?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's a New York story. You remember?
Yes. I always remember that story.
But yeah, it and you know what's interesting? I always said I would never I would never put myself in a position ever to experience abuse like that, and I found myself in a position that I did. Right? I've always said, as far as physical abuse is concerned in a relationship, that I would never put my hand. If I have to think about putting my hands on my partner, then we don't need to be together.
Right.
That was always my thought process when it came to being in a relationship. Like, if I think about it, then we don't need to be together at all. But I never accounted for verbal abuse.
Okay.
Um,
I'm sorry, I'm laughing because I did text not because of your story.
No. Easy said, easy done is in the building.
Yeah.
Easy.
I don't know what was going on. The people wouldn't let me in. Technology would not let me be great this evening. I'm like, I'm just sitting here.
So yeah, tonight's episode is all about domestic abuse within our community and our experiences and signs. So Deb has put down there at the bottom, he's put out a hotline that you can call or reference in order to
you actually go to the website. You can call or you can text.
Yeah, you can get some help if you find yourself in a verbal or in any kind of abusive situation.
Yeah.
But I was just sharing a story, of just my experience with domestic violence within our community. Mine in particular was verbal abuse in a relationship that I thought was going to be a relationship, and it obviously didn't turn out to be that way. So we've just started. We're just kind of sharing our experiences as it pertains to domestic violence. Again, if you're just joining us, this is in accordance with Atlanta Black Pride and their domestic violence awareness series. This is Project Silent Voice. And we are the Affairs of Heart podcast, kicking off their week-long awareness of domestic violence. So I'll turn it over to you, So Deb, if you want to share any experience of your own.
I've actually experienced a lot of different domestic violence situations. I think that, where we're at today is different from where we were at before because it's more acceptable to be a gay person. But it was almost, I guess, I can give some experiences that I've had. I've had a friend that literally, and this is crazy, you're going to be like, what the heck's going on here? But I had a friend who lived in a building with me. Him and his partner lived together, and the boy had sneezed. This is a real story. The partner had sneezed, and the other partner went off on him. And I was sitting in the living room. I was sitting with these guys, and it got to the point where a knife had been pulled out because they didn't understand why I had said bless you, and that partner didn't say bless you. And literally, they were fighting. Like, they were like, I literally, in my brain, I was like, let me hide everything in this house right now that could possibly happen. And luckily that I did this because, and I think I missed a knife because it still was pulled out. But the guy really went and got help because he didn't understand why he was so mad about it. I think it was such an isolated situation in that time where I don't know. I can't even think what his brain was going through, but I do know that when me and my ex were together, we had a conversation. I was like, well, I go to counseling like once a week, and so I was able to help my friend get to counseling because he didn't understand his anger and why he was so mad about bless you. And I was all for it because I'm like, I don't get stabbed. Like, I didn't know, you know what I'm saying? But I was very happy that happened later on. I'm glad that nothing really bad happened. I'm glad I was there because I have respect for both of my friends have respect for me, and I was able to help the situation. Now, it could have turned totally different because normally the person who ain't involved in it is the person who gets stabbed or shot or whatever it is. but I didn't want to see it happen. And I was really willing to risk my life for this.
Yeah. Yeah. Unfortunately, I guess talking about where domestic violence comes from, or at least not necessarily comes from, but what can be triggers of domestic violence within our community is a lot of things.
Yeah.
Because we come from, some of us, not all of us, I don't want to put everybody in the same boat, but a lot of us come from volatile experiences when it comes to uh, being a part of the LGBTQ community. You know what I mean? Whether it becomes uh, bullying from school, or whether it's in, whatever it looked like for you.
Yeah.
That I think it just all kind of family dynamics, even in the case of that situation, it could definitely manifest itself from that way. It just depends on how you slice it from the male perspective, because again, I know females kind of deal with it differently as well. Later on in the week of the domestic violence awareness series, our good friend of the show, Dr. Rainier, is going to moderate the LGBTQIA plus and domestic violence, but she wrote a book called Domestically Cursed, and it's the perspective of the domestic violence from a lesbian's perspective, and ultimately the abuser, or the abusee becoming the abuser later on in their other relationships.
Yeah.
And so that's also a perspective to kind of think of as well. Like, with you have then taken on the mantle, or again, the act of being the abuser, because that's all that you've seen. That's all that you come from, et cetera, et cetera. But
I think that I always thought that because I've never really seen that in my, growing up. But I actually experienced this, and I actually had this conversation last night before we had this conversation about things that went on my relationship. And I remember, like, the first time we kind of got to a physical altercation, my thing was, love conquers all. So let me hug you, let me talk you down from this. Because I just always knew that love conquered all. I saw my parents go through so much. So, dealing with someone else that hasn't been through that, I don't think that this clicked for me. It was like, I feel like if I show you more love than what you have going on in your brain right now, it may work a little bit differently. And that didn't happen. What it caused was for more violence. And so then after that, we had a conversation, and then it happened again, to the point where he told me that I was overweight and I was disgusting. And we got into a full fight then, because I'm like, I'm not even overweight, but what's going on here? And so we got into it. But after that, it was like, oh, this is a problem. You know what I mean? And so I hate telling the story. Honestly, I do. Because I really didn't understand it, and I think this is where a lot of people who go through this type of thing may be in that kind of space. It's like, well, it wasn't a space for me where it's like, well, if he doesn't respect me, then, or if he hits me, then he loves me. It was more like, I don't understand why you don't understand the fact that I love you before we get here. And then when it happened, it was like, well, what do you do? Because again, I've never experienced this before. And so I think that counseling kind of helped the narrative of that. That wasn't our last physical fight, but it got to the point where towards the end, this is why we separated. So, and I think a lot of it is that when you are growing up as a gay man, I'll say this, you get bullied a lot. So, well, I did. I ain't gonna say, I can't speak for everybody. I got bullied a lot. So I would lash out. I would, say a lot of things that isn't right. But it's because mentally, I don't understand how people felt the way they felt about me, because I came from a family of love and all this stuff. So it's not only like, you can actually fix this situation before it gets physical. So with my friends that I had, so it got there sometimes. So I guess getting into a relationship, um, it was really hard for me to comprehend this because it was like, well, but I love you though. So like, why do you feel like you have to go this far? And it didn't happen for a long time, but it did happen in the very beginning of it. But I learned the backstory of everything, which was my partner stepfather was abusing him. So we had to really sit through a lot during counseling to the point where we had to separate our counseling and go, individually and then come back together and do it because there was a bigger issue here. It wasn't me. And I remember that my counselor told me, they was like, well, there was a dragon inside of me that wakes this dragon up in this other person. And she said, it's not that you're the problem. It's the fact that whatever your partner has been through, there's triggers that he has that wakes up this dragon. And I was like, man, I need to get out of here. She was like, if that's how you feel, you should, because how far does this go? Is he willing to get help?
Yeah. I think that's you made a valid point in regards to a few things, but in particularly, you thought that your love or your presence was going to fix the problem.
Yeah.
And I think that that is a huge common misconception when it comes to relationships as such and domestic violence in particularly. I think that we all get to the point where we think we're going to fix it.
Yeah.
I'm going to be able to love them out of this. I'm going to be able to give them the affection that they were missing. I'm going to be able to heal the areas that they, that they have, had issues with, et cetera, et cetera. And the reality is that it's not yours to fix, number one, and you can't.
Right.
There's nothing that you will be able to do. No amount of love, no amount of cooked food, no amount of, physical touch, no amount of the,
any of the love languages,
is going to fix
right.
the situation, unfortunately.
Right.
But then I think a lot of times we don't want to come to terms with the fact that this is a major chronic problem for people.
Right.
And then if the shoe was on the other foot, if you were the abuser, then you also have to contend with the fact that you need to understand why you react the way that you react.
Right.
Why, and I think you mentioned it in your spiel in terms of this was a direct reflect of what he had received as a child or from his stepfather.
Right.
So, my big sis just gave us a donation. Thank you, love. We appreciate that. So yeah, these are the very big signs and warnings about domestic violence in particularly. Easy, we're going to toss you in the conversation and see if there's anything that that you want to share in regards to domestic violence, my friend.
I can't lend any personal experiences.
Oh yeah, let me do this. Go ahead, Easy.
Yeah.
Was that from you?
I can't. I was just saying that I can't lend any personal experiences on domestic violence. I haven't been in a relationship, so therefore, no domestic violence over there. But I haven't. That's something I've never experienced. Now, physical abuse, mental abuse, verbal abuse, that is something I have experienced. Do I have answers as to why it happened? No. Do I have an idea? I do. Have I healed from it? No. It's something that will be with me till I take my last breath. Yeah, in my mind, I practice some of this stuff, so I wouldn't get misty eyed. Um, it's just we just need more platforms where we can be open and talk about this because for us, I know it's very generational. I feel like where these type of situations are swept under the rug, and our grandmas, our great grandmas, our great great grandmas were strong women who dealt with it in silence, and for them to go through that, their granddaughters and their grandsons never knew anything about it, and then for some of their grandsons to grow up and be gay, we don't even have an outlet to talk to anybody about that because it was sometimes expected back in the day, where like you said, he don't love me unless he hit me. Well, some of our great grandparents were loved to death.
Hmm, that's very true.
So who do we talk to about these type of situations when there was no one there around us? 9 times out of 10, they were the ones doing it. So a lot of that was learned behavior. Not saying it's acceptable behavior, but I'm saying it was a learned behavior. There's so many avenues where this can go. Mm, I'm passing the mic. Passing the mic. Give me a second.
All right. Um, it's a tough topic tonight, guys. We in terms like to have a good time on the show, but I think one of the things that is important to us, and one of the reasons why we started this platform, is so that we can have the tough conversations that we weren't having in the community. And so I want to shift it just a little bit, and I think Easy brought up a very good point in regards to saying that a lot of things were swept under the rug. Um, why say somebody's watching this and they have unresolved issues that they've swept under the rug? Two-part question. One, how do you suggest from your past or personal experience that they address the issue, if it's necessary to address it? Or, and the second part of the question would then be, how do you free yourself from said issues that are swept under the rug, right? Do we've talked about counseling. All of us, I think, have had our own personal experience as far as counseling is concerned. And I know we're talking about domestic violence, but again, this kind of parallels with, family violence in regards to that as well. So, if the conversation shifts in that aspect, we can definitely talk about things that, happen within our family dynamics that have caused, the onset, excuse me, of domestic violence in that aspect, and from our personal experience as well. But back to the question, how do we address some of the things that we've swept under the rug? Because I think we carry, as Black gay men, we carry around the weight of, I'm just not going to talk about it. As Easy just said, I'm just not. Some things I'm taking to my grave, and that is perfectly understandable. We're not knocking that perspective at all, but it's more or less, how do we free ourselves, or how do we unburden ourselves from that weight? Um, would be my question.
It's it's gonna take a lot because honestly, I feel like it's very much of a cultural thing. For us, we've been sweeping so much under the damn rug. Like at this point in time, like you can't walk a straight path across the rug. Like
Because
you can't.
you're dodging dirt balls under the, yeah.
Yeah, like the rug is only but so big, and from early on, we just been taught that we just have to deal with it. We have to push through it. We just got to be strong about it. No, stop the tears. Be a big boy. Be a big girl. Like it's so much.
But what has that done to you directly? Not you
Oh,
specifically, but the man directly, because we have been taught to be that kind of person or that kind of man. What has that done overall? If you look at how you react to certain things, how you respond to things, how you love, how you interact with your, friends, anybody for that matter.
um, I'm very. I don't tolerate a lot of nonsense. Um, I've cut family off. I've cut friends off. Without the moment I feel where I'm disrespected or I feel assaulted or I feel like I'm not valued, I'm out. Like I just feel like and not even there's no conversation behind it either.
Hmm.
So there's no talking it out. There's no like investing in the feelings or anything like that. It's just like this clearly isn't a space for me to be in. So I'm out of here.
Yeah.
I had a sister I didn't speak to for good 10, 12 years. Lived right around the corner from me.
Yeah.
I have the relationship I have with my father is very strained. It's awkward. Um, but my my abuse came from him. So
Hmm.
I feel like I am. It wasn't until the pandemic where I realized that I don't think I'm fully healed from that type of abuse.
Mhm.
I was actually literally waking up in cold sweats, waking up in terror, waking up in fear, as if I was reliving the attacks. Like that's something as a 34-year-old man, I'm just like, what is happening right now? Like I don't understand. Like I thought I had moved past that. I thought I was like it felt the all the physical violence that I endured that I endured through him. I relived it for I want to say a good month or so during quarantine,
Hmm.
and it was just like I said, it was just weird to me. I worked so hard, and here's that pushing shit under the rug. Um, I worked super duper hard to get out of that situation. Like all through high school, I worked multiple jobs, um,
Mhm.
just so I could scrape up and save enough money. Um, I had a whole house full of stuff. Like I had the microwave, I had the dishes, I had towels and sheets and stuff before I had even gotten my apartment. Like I was just saving up and getting everything that I could possibly need. So when the day finally came, I was up out of there. Like I wanted to make sure that I was able to do everything he said I could not do. He consistently called me a leech, consistently called like I will never be anything without him. And even to this day, I make it very clear to like I'm going to do it on my own regardless.
Mhm.
Like I don't, you know, I was if I look back even further, I was that way in school. I was that kid in the group project that did all the work. Like I that was just me. Like I just made sure that I had to take care of myself and I take care of myself. So, but when you sit down and talk, when you have these type of conversations, you can see where it's rooted.
Yeah.
Like the little things that you just think are nothing, it's rooted in something. It goes all the way back. So, like I said, I saw as someone asked, was I journaling? I stopped journaling. I stopped. I couldn't. I stopped. Let's just say that. So,
What you got,
yeah.
so Deb?
I just think that we learn what love looks like in different places for us. Um, I didn't think this. I didn't know this was gonna be this hard to at all. But just thinking back to the things that I've been through, um, I realize why I do shut down a lot. I realize why I do lash out sometimes because and I've talked about my abuse that I've been through. Um, I feel like sometimes I'm fighting so much stuff sometimes. Even though I've been through counseling, I feel like still like I just don't want to be taken advantage of again. So
Hmm.
like even hearing what Easy is saying, like it just makes me even think about it even more. So I overly protect myself. when it comes to anything. I overly protect myself. Um, because I don't ever want to be like, as an adult, I don't want to be taken advantage of again.
That part, that vulnerability, that feeling weak, that feeling
Yeah.
insecure. It's like I
Uh,
said,
and,
it runs deep.
and
Like
thank you, DT, for all the links that you're posting in the chat. By the way, I just want to say that.
Yeah, DT's doing a great job
Yeah.
of giving us information. Also, in accordance to that, scrolling at the bottom of the screen is the hotline
Yeah.
for abuse in the LGBTQ community. You can call the 1-800 number if you feel unsafe, or you can also text START to 88788. This just brought up some emotions for me of a conversation that I recently just had with my partner, um, that I was not anticipating. So, one of the things that I noticed in our relationship dynamic is that I immediately tend to respond like my mother.
Mm-hmm.
Very short, very abrupt, very demeaning, very aggressively sometimes. And this is not this is not to paint my mother in a bad light by no means, because she's not a negative person at all, or a bad person at all. But I just knew that I just noticed being in a relationship that I then would respond, immediately without thinking. And I know that that directly comes from her. And so I had a conversation with my partner at the time about, and being extremely apologetic, because I know how her responses to me in those tones and in that manner then affected me.
Mm-hmm.
It made me feel a certain kind of way. It made me feel belittled. It made me feel demeaned. It made me feel, a certain kind of way. And I would have never wanted to project that onto anyone else, let alone him.
Right.
And so, of course, I had to say, you know what, I'm so sorry. Like, I feel myself responding like her, and I don't like that. I don't think that it's necessary, and I don't want you to feel a certain kind of way. And I never want you to feel how I felt receiving that kind of response. But I said all of that to say, where do you think accountability comes in as the abuser? Right. So, like, if we were in situations, obviously, Easy may not have a direct response, because he has not necessarily directly experienced it per se. But from whatever your perspective is still a valid answer. Where do you find accountability in how you're responding as an abuser? Whether it's verbal, physical, um, is there any accountability for that matter? How do you address that?
I think as someone who's been abused, you really can't expect that, because some people will never get to the space where they're going to want to give you that. And I did. I think I posted it on our channel as well, where I read my letter to my younger self. That was my way of getting it for my abuser to take accountability for what happened to me, was making peace with my own self. Because what I wanted my abuser to say to me, I said it to myself. This is something that I went. This was like something that I went through. And actually, I was watching Basketball Wives, and I talked to my counselor about it, because I can't think if it was Evelyn or if it was Tammy, but I thought it was a good exercise for what I have been through, because I'm like, I don't even know if I want to talk to the person who's abused me. But I do want to make peace, with myself. I want that peace for myself. And so that letter to my younger self, it changed my life, honestly. And I always tell people, I was like, when I actually wrote it, it was me speaking to myself. But actually, when I read it back to me, I actually saw that little boy. And I gave that little boy the apology that the little boy needed. And I literally feel like I saw the little boy walk away in peace. But there's other work that you have to do after that. because now that we have this, you still have work to do after this. And we have to, as gay men, as anybody who's even watching this, we have to figure out that piece. And once you get it, then what? So you're working on yourself all the time because you don't want to live your life with that trauma still. Yes, I have peace from that. But my life has been affected. And I still have other work to do as far as how to live my everyday life now. I've been feeling so bad about this. I've been feeling this way about this. But now I have to literally pick myself up because the little boy that I met moved on. But that little
Yeah.
boy's peace don't stop my peace as an adult. I just
Yeah.
I get the little boy peace, but the adult me still needs peace.
Yeah.
I think I'm still trying to figure out what does that piece look like.
Mm-hmm.
Um, no, it's interesting that this is coming up because I did talk to my older sister about it recently because she feels like I need to dig deeper because she feels like if I were to, I guess, sort through those feelings and those emotions,
Mm-hmm.
I could find the healing that I didn't know I needed.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes, and she's my Ivana, fix my life. She speaks from such a healthy place of dealing with it because I mean she dealt with it herself, with our father, and it's just mind-boggling sometimes. Like I said, how you how we can go through life not thinking that we're that person and really we are that person. Saying you can't be the one to be like, oh, that'll never be me, or I'll
Mm-hmm.
never be in that type of situation. You never know where your road goes,
Right.
and I'm pretty sure that's for the abusers as well too. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I can't speak directly for them, but I don't think deep down that's what they want to do.
Yeah.
I pray and hope that that's not what it's want to do. But I'm just like, when you look at some people, and especially growing up, you see it's like a lot of this learned behavior. So it's rooted in something where they got the notion that this is the way you love somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Like this is it right here. Because like I said, my sister told me like if there's a lot of things that we as her, myself, and the rest of our siblings, there were two ways that we could have been. You
Mm-hmm.
know, we could have ended up in the same footsteps as our father, where we were on drugs, on using alcohol to cope, hurting people along the way. But yet we were, even though we still have some healing to do, we were strong enough to realize that this isn't the path that we want to take.
Right.
We each went through school. We each got, we're doing have great jobs, and we are uh, living life to the fullest. We're handling things. We're doing the best we can as adults and being amazing citizens in the process. But she's like, the road could have been different for a lot of people. You walk past a lot of people who are homeless, who are going through so much trauma, and like they had options, and it's not no fault of theirs, but it's just like there's so many ways that your life could turn out because of someone not being able to handle the abuse that they suffered in the beginning.
But a lot of their trauma, it comes from that too. So you have to realize,
True.
too, like a lot of that trauma comes from this. I did want to read this. Jennifer Love Judith says, after leaving a very physically abusive relationship, I had to move to another state. I wrote my father a letter telling him how his treatment of me led to it. He never responded, but I felt free from the anger I felt for the abuser and for my father. And I think that's almost like writing a letter to your younger self. It's like you still wrote that. You know what I mean? So it's almost like a self healing space for you.
Mhm.
And sometimes you can't get that. healing from that other person. So whatever you have to do for yourself, you do it, whether it is write a letter. Sometimes your counselor will tell you to write a letter, but don't ever send it. You know what I mean? So a lot of that, I'm really trying not to cry. Um, a lot of this stuff, it makes a lot of sense because it's like you have the opportunity to give yourself self healing for that portion of your life. And a lot of times your counselor will tell you, from your behavior, you're still stuck in this space of your life. Like if this happened to me at 9 years old, I'm stuck in a 9 year old space mentally when it comes to this. But you writing this letter heals that 9 year old. But now let's say you're 38. What happens with the 38-year old now? How do you move on to the healing for the 38-year-old?
I think that that's a direct reflective because we've talked about Billy Porter and his coming out story in terms of his HIV status this year. And one of the things that he said in an interview where his therapist said that while he was achieving all of these monumentous things, being on Broadway, being a best-selling singer, now to being a nationally or internationally recognized celebrity in terms of television and movies, etc. But his mind was stuck at the trauma that happened to him when he was 9 years old.
Right.
And they had to do all of this unpacking during the pandemic in terms of mentally, in terms of what happened from the 9 year old up until now. And I think that is a very, very valid key. A lot of things, and one of the things I wanted to mention too, in regards to what Easy had said, a lot of things we will never come to terms with until we're faced with a situation that will allow us to come to terms with them. Right. So I would have never known that I might have had aggressive or volatile verbiage in a relationship until I was in a relationship and it just happened. Right. It's not that there is ever any intention to be volatile verbally, but it didn't happen until I was actually in a relationship and then was faced with the fact that, oh, wait, no. Where did that come from? How was I supposed to even know that I was carrying around this? And so I think a lot of the times, one of the things that we need to consider is that, traumas don't surface until they're awoken, so to speak, as you mentioned earlier, so Deb, about the dragon waking up the dragon. And he may not have never even known that dragon even existed until it was awakened. So
I was ready to let the dragon take over. So
right.
I mean, that a lot of us do that. It turns into a more of a I'll get you before you ever get me. We make up for that child being very defenseless and not being able to handle ourselves in those types of situations. And now we're adults, so now it's just like, oh, you will never put me in that type of situation.
Right.
So, yeah.
I think with Mimi Twin, I don't know who you work with. I would love to work with whoever you're working with, but she said, Mimi said, volunteer activity at work today. We wrote letters to domestic violence survivors with positive messages for them to move forward and stay strong. I think that is amazing.
I think you never really realize how much surviving any sort of domestic violence is a big flex. And should be celebrated in that aspect, because at the end of the day, there are people that didn't survive it.
And this is very honest. I don't know how to move on, but I know you guys are beautiful and you matter. You're somebody. Thank you. A lot of people don't know how to move on. I think that's the thing. I think that even as Black people, like, we don't really have all the opportunities to be helped to move on from things. If you do have the opportunity to get the help to move on, it's amazing. But there are a lot of people sitting out in the world who have been through traumatic things who have no idea how to move on from those things. And one thing that I do try to do with people that I meet is to give that story of me writing the letter to my younger self, because it helped me tremendously. It helped me in a way that I didn't think they would even do for me. But I think after writing it and then reading it back to myself, it was a game changer for me. But that was for the little boy, and I'm working on the adult at this point.
Yeah.
What happened, what the adult's feeling. And now I made and I said I always want the right one from my younger self in my 20s. I think me, you talk about this, Dwayne. For my 20s and my 30s and my 40s. Like, I wanted to do that because I feel like it was very important for me.
I think it's necessary, but again, I think the bigger point to that is that you actually have to make the effort to do it. We can choose a lot of I think sometimes we choose to stay in the, and I hate to say it this way because I don't want to make light of the stages of where you are as it pertains to your healing when it comes to domestic violence, but sometimes we stay in the abuser's posture. Or the abusee, rather, the abusee's posture, or the woe is me posture, or it'll just never be the same, or I never want to come out of it. And I think that there is a beauty in the, coming out of, or realizing that you can, for that matter. Because I think if some people are never told that they can, then they never will.
Right.
Or if they never learn that they can, or how to, or what it takes to, then they never will. I think all of that is vaguely important. I mean, it's extremely important, rather, not vaguely. I want to go back to Pink Dynamite's comment. I'm not making any excuses for the abuser. Most oftentimes the abuser has been abused, and they are broken. The movie The Shack will help you on your journey. The Shack is a very powerful book and a very powerful movie if you have not read and or seen either. We had to read it in one of my classes in college. And it's a very personal book of a journey of a man who had some internal issues, thus was, seemingly had everything that he needed, but had some internal issues. And he goes on a journey and meets God, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit in physical form, and has a conversation with each of them individually, and they heal them in together. And now, while it sounds very religious, it's not very religious at all. It's more or less about healing in spaces that we have not really been healed from. But a great book nonetheless. I would suggest that to anybody, to find a space to learn to heal, or at least to start the healing process. But I think that we have given you some examples, some great examples, especially SoDeb, in terms of, how to start. Writing the letter to your younger self sounds, to some, it may sound juvenile or immature. However, it is extremely healing, and you're able to get out the things that you can when you're ready to face them. Because I think Easy Said Easy Done also made a very valid point, is that some things he's just not ready to face. And that's honest.
That's very honest.
I think that's honest, and I think that is very valid. I would ask that we don't stay in that space too long. In order for you to be 100% whole,
it's hard. It's hard not to ask that, though, because you don't know.
No, I'm not, and I'm not making light of it. I'm giving you the perspective that there is more. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's, in order for you to heal yourself, or at least want to heal, and not saying that you don't want to. I respect Easy's position when he says that there are some things he's taken to the grave, and that is totally understandable.
It's just I feel like sometimes it's so hard to trust someone because I don't know. It's that whole trust factor. Like, I would love to sit down and possibly talk to someone about it, but then as I get closer to making that move, I'm like, you know what? I got this. I got this. And 9 times out of 10, I probably truly don't got this, but I've been coaching myself and self healing myself to the point where I feel like I got it.
I think I just got to the point where I feel like I was cheating myself when it came to this, which is why in an early age I did go get help, because I didn't want to walk around thinking that dating was this, or I didn't want to walk around thinking that everybody was going to hurt me. And so, because I really wanted to try to date at least. And so, when I did try, it wasn't the best experience at all. It wasn't. But even after that, I'm still in hopes of having a good experience when it comes to dating, because I don't want to be in we got to fight each other to prove our love for each other. I don't want someone to take advantage of me all the time. Like, I don't want none of that stuff. I literally want to be in a space where I'm able to be on a level field with somebody. And I think maybe because I've seen it in my real life with my parents and my grandparents and my family members, I have hope for that.
Yeah. I think it's for its equally amount of um, violence or abuse that we might have seen. There's also, great examples of, courage and love, and a lot of that is just a balance of what we can take away from it and how we can try to place those spaces of where we can heal um, in those areas and aspects. And again, this is all a personal journey. What worked for Easy may not work for SoDeb, and what worked for SoDeb may not work for DQ. It's really personal. But I think the common denominator of it all is acknowledging where you are, and then whatever that looks like, as far as you feel that you necessarily need to be your healing or your steps to becoming the better person under yourself, then you take those actions. But I think the most important thing is what we're doing now, and that's having a conversation about it. Right.
Yeah.
I think that's absolutely pertinent.
Yeah. That,
It's tough tonight, guys. I know this was not going to be an easy conversation. I'm so sorry, but I think it is necessary. Again, if you're just joining us, this is the Affairs of the Heart podcast, and we are collaborating with Atlanta Black Pride and their Domestic Violence Awareness Week. This is called Project Silent Voice, where we are discussing Black gay men and domestic violence. And we've covered so many areas and aspects of our own personal experiences, along with, how we have, coped with a couple of things, what it has meant for us to be Black and gay, and, the traumas that we've experienced in that aspect, as well as physical, verbal, and mental abuse within any of relationships, friendships, romantic relationships that we have encountered. Switching gears a little bit, guys, I'll ask about your friendships. Have you been in situations where you have befriended people and think that these are the true blue friends to the end, and it has ended or resulted in physical or verbal abuse from that aspect? Talk about that for a second in terms of your friendships. I know we've laid heavily on our families and our personal romantic relationships, but let's talk about our friend circles for a minute.
I don't really have hopes in friendships like that. Like, I don't even associate my friendships with my growing up or my dating life. And maybe I just don't really have faith in friendships this way. Like, because I'm expecting something to go wrong. If my partner can't even treat me right, or my partner can't even be loyal to me to the point where there's no, like, if we can settle down and talk or whatever, I definitely don't expect my friends to give me that same space. Now, I have learned that my friends have given me a lot more than I've had in my relationships. Um, but I always think to my family because my family has always been my rock when it comes down to what a relationship looks like for me. So
Mm.
I don't think that I would, I don't, I can't, I really wouldn't associate my friendships with my family. But when it comes down to dating, I can't even date to the point where it's like respectable sometimes, a lot of times. We can't get to the respect part of the relationship. So I look at my friendships like that at all.
What about you, E?
Friend circles are small for me. Um, I mean, y'all know Meech. That's the bestie, and I had two more. Damo was on here at one point in time. And then I had my boy Aaron. Uh, those three fellows right there have really been a rock for me over the years. And I'll say I had some others, but it was situations that came about that proved that you really don't have my back the way I think you do. And
Mm-hmm.
then and I've always been a person that even though we separated as friends, what happened during our friendship, that'll stay there. I'm not one who's going to air out your deep dark secrets or anything like that,
Mm-hmm.
but it shed a light on them because each one of those that I separated from, they did that to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like that that bothered me. Like that type of abuse right there, cyber abuse. Because one of them went on Twitter and aired all my shit out. And I'm like, yes, that shit happened. I didn't think I was gonna have to explain it or talk about it, but it happened. Yeah, it is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
But I've never been that one to do that. Like I felt like if we were friends, and what we had as a friend, as friends, stays there. I cherish those memories. Those are some things that will never go away. But I'm also at the same time, we've grown apart.
Yeah.
Clearly, we've grown apart. You don't value friendship or see friendship the way that I see it and value it.
Yeah.
So I wish you the best on your journey. I wish you success. All love. I'm no ill will from my part.
I think that with my long-term friendship, like even with you, Dwayne, like we've been in all different types of spaces when it comes to our friendship, but we've always been able to maintain that. Um, I think even like my high school friends, like we've been able to maintain that. And I think at this point, it's just like, I feel like my friends who have grown up with me know how to handle me because all the time I'm not going to be the best person. And I don't have the expectation of them being the best person. What I do expect is to be able to have a conversation, to be able to, you know, go through. Because to me, a friendship is like a relationship.
Yeah.
You know, every day is not going to be good. Like in my brain, I have that embedded in my brain. Even my family is the same way. Every day is not going to be the best day. But when it gets to like the point where the bad day comes and then it gets like nasty, like that's when I'm like, you know what, this is why I don't really create this atmosphere all the time anymore for people. And I think, me getting older, I'm almost not wanting to even try to create that again.
I think for me, one of the things that we see quite often now that social media is such a uh, everyday presence is we see the fighting between us in the community,
Mm,
and it within itself,
mm,
and these are alleged friends or people that are considered to be in friendships in that matter, but we see the domestic violence for whatever reason,
mm,
and while we may never know the true purpose behind it,
mm,
one of the things that I would like to put in the atmosphere is in regards to that is a form of violence. If you
yeah.
are around a group of friends and they don't serve you what they served you before, or you've outgrown them, there is no need to hate on them or have any animosity towards them, but you can just quietly just exit yourself and move out of the situation. I don't think it takes the verbal abuse or the fighting, because at the end of the day, just like SoDeb said, it's like an actual a friendship is a ship, just like your relationship is a ship. And if you all are in the ship together at one point and you all are doing what's necessary for you to maintain that ship, and then all of a sudden somebody pokes a hole in the ship, then all of y'all are going to sink. And then you need to figure out why, and it doesn't take the physical aspect of it, that's bottled up somewhere. I've been in situations where, my younger self, not really valuing relationships, friendships for that matter specifically, and, have been in physical altercations with quote unquote friends.
Mhm.
And now, you look at me now, and if anybody knows that knows me knows I don't like to fight at all physically. That doesn't mean I can't.
Right.
It just means that I just don't like to, because I don't like to the space that puts me in mentally, physically, emotionally. It is very taxing for me. But I have had to get with friends over just misunderstandings and the ability of not being able to communicate. And I think that it's totally unnecessary. And I think that if you are in a situation where the relationship has become violent, the friendship has become violent, then you need to remove yourself immediately. I wanted to go to Kennedy's comment about her 13-year-old, his or her 13-year-old cousin. Forgive me. I don't want to mess up pronouns. But the cousin has just come out. And he doesn't want to see her hurt. And is the hurt unavoidable, or is it just to be expected? I think as long as there is somebody that is giving sound advice, you can't necessarily say that it's avoidable. But as long as there's somebody present to be a sounding board. I've had to be that person for my younger cousin, who is a lesbian, as well as like friends from high school, and their kids are now teenagers and close to adults, and they're starting to experiment and come out, so to speak. I've gotten calls from them on how to handle the conversations between them and their children. And so I would just advise that they're having someone around that's going to speak positivity, speak, encouragement to the cousin. I think that's the best way to handle the situation.
Well, I just want to go back to the friendship conversation. Like my friends here, because I live here without my family being here, are like my family, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes down to confrontation and stuff like this, like we have it out, right? But we still roll back to friendship. It's like a unspoken thing for us. It's like, okay, I didn't like what you did, or whatever. But the friendship, like our friendship, is very solid. So I don't know if that for me personally is sits in that space, but I know that my friend circle that I have here, we are like family here for me, because a lot of us do live here without our biological family being here. So I just think that for me, I think I hold them more accountable than I hold a lot of people.
Okay, so in the domestic violence realm, if you could give one piece of advice to somebody watching this that feels that they are in a domestic violence situation, what would that advice be?
I'll let Easy go first. Unless you want to go first.
You want me to give you a minute, E?
Are we waiting on me?
Yeah, I can go.
You go first. You go. I need to. I want to. I got it. I just have to move some words around.
Move it around. I'm gonna look at it from both perspectives. If you are the abuser, um, seek help immediately, but seek help for yourself, not because you want to keep the relationship or stay in the relationship, so to speak, but just seek. And when I say seek help, I really mean, find a counselor or find someone that you can confide in. Start with the number that's scrolling down at the bottom of the screen in terms of just seeking out help in that aspect. And any of us can be abusers or abusees. I think that we need to make that very clear. No one is above either, and no one is better than either. And so, if you are an abuser or an abusee, I think that you, first and foremost, should seek the help that is necessary. Talk to someone that built up aggression, that built up pain, that built up trauma, the things that you swept under the rug, as Easy so eloquently put it. I think all of that needs to be exposed for your healing and your health and your peace of mind. And so start with, again, the number that's scrolling at the bottom of the screen, but then also, seek help where you can, and just kind of go from there. I really, it takes a lot of introspective work.
Right.
And if you're not willing to do the introspective work, then there's a greater issue. And I can speak that from experience. Introspective work is absolutely necessary. Identifying and acknowledging that you have a problem should be step one. And then once you acknowledge it, then you'll be able to. You cannot heal what you don't reveal. You can't heal what you don't reveal, and if you continue to sit on it and you don't want to reveal it, then there is no healing that's going to just magically take place. No amount of prayer, no amount of going to prophets or any of that nature is going to heal what you don't necessarily want to face and or reveal on your own. So that's my 2 cents. I'm not saying that it's right, but it is the best for me. So anybody else that wants to go next?
I think a lot of abusers don't understand that they're being abusive. So I definitely agree with what you said. I'm gonna just go down the line. I think when it comes to abusers, like physical abusers, I really can't even give you an answer for that. I'm gonna just be honest. I think for anyone who has been abused, seek out counseling, therapy, whatever it is, because I think that it's more for you than it is for the other person. Whether you ever get an answer from, what happened to you from the abuser, just get help for yourself. Be selfish in that moment, because you are probably more affected than that person is to you, and you are probably living in trauma. This person has moved on with their life. However you decide to handle that, that is on you. But I would definitely say counseling, therapy, whatever it is, I would definitely say, choose that for yourself. When it comes down to everything else, we talk about sexual abuse. I'm definitely going to say, a lot of them are not going to give you peace in your life. They're not. You definitely should choose yourself on that. Don't do that. Don't do that.
Please don't do that.
Don't do that, please.
Oh, now.
I don't think a lot of them are going to give you that answer, because it kind of gets, all this kind of gets legal, right? So who's trying to admit this? But you have to get self-peace on every situation that we have talked about. Self-peace is going to happen, because if the day doesn't come where this person doesn't help, like, give you that, hey, I messed up, I did this, or whatever it was, what are you going to do? So seeking self-peace for all this stuff is what you have to do. One thing I do is I take breaks. I go to counseling every week because I have to. I'm an empath. I feel everything. I can't stay out of it. So I have to do it. I mean, so I'm gonna say that I think with your friendships, it's the same thing. Every time you're not gonna get an answer. So the best thing I'm gonna say from through all the situations is choose you and seek your own personal peace.
I've been sitting over here trying to hold back tears.
And that's why I was like,
we were like, please don't do it. Because if you start the waterworks, everybody's gonna start
it's gonna
crying,
be
and
a
I
whole
can't.
crying festival.
No, I know for me, I would close my eyes and just like keep them real tight, and then just let the words process through. But I just had a conversation with a friend of mine. She called me. Well, no, she didn't call me. She texted me. She said, "Hey, you have a moment to talk? Well, not talk, but text." I was like, "Yeah, what's up?" Um, she said, "I need just someone to be by the phone for me." I was like, "Okay, cool. You good? You all right?" She was like, "I don't think I'm in a safe place." All right, sis, what's up? Like, what you need? She said, "Just don't call." I was like, "Okay, all right, I'll play into this." Like, what's going on? And apparently, she was just like, I'm, as- I'm afraid and ashamed to even call a family member because I don't want them to know that I'm back with him. And I didn't even know that was even a situation or something that she was even going through. But you know, you catch on quick, you read between the lines, and I'm like, "Well, where are you?" She's like, "I don't know. He's driving." I was like, "What are you near? Like, what are you by? Give me some type of a location or something." And there were moments where she didn't hit me back for like 10, 15, 20 minutes. And I'm just like, and I'm nervous now because I'm just like, at this point, the way she was texting me, like anything could have happened. I don't know this person. So if he look at the phone, if he see Eric, or he may think that like, oh, who's this guy, or anything could have happened where it could have set him off to the point where something could have been done. And God, thank God, she is okay. But just in that moment, in that night, my mind was running, and there's no way I could have got to her. She was in a whole nother state. I had to get her to send her location to a friend of mine, just like iPhone, Android, mix. But it was just when I was able to talk to her, I told her, "What do you want to do? Like, really and truly, what do you want to do? How do you want your life to go? Because you're smart, you're talented, you're successful, you got coin or days, like you have so much going for yourself. So much so that you should never even be in this type of situation. So what is it that you really want to do?" Because in that moment you were afraid for your life. Were you or were you not? She was like, "Yes, I was. I was." Okay. Do you want to feel that again? No. I'm like, all right, then so what are we doing? And I feel like you just have to make that conscious decision as to what are you going to do. So to my abusers out there, if you are out here and you want your life and you want to keep living and you want to go on, you got to make the decision to walk away. You got to make that decision to walk away. It's not like that's not love. Love is not measured in how many times he hits you. Love is not measured in how many times he kicks you. Love is not measured in how many times he puts you down. That is no way, shape, or form the type of love any of us deserve. No way. No one's done anything in life to deserve that type of love. You can do so much better and so much more. You get out here, you heal yourself. Because at the end of the day, You don't become complete by getting with somebody. You have to complete yourself, you know? And I think a lot of times people confuse the words, those C words. I think you confuse complete and compliment.
Mm-hmm.
You heal yourself to completion. So when you get with someone, you compliment them, they compliment you, and y'all both shine.
Mm-hmm.
And so yes, those are my words to her in that moment. You know, this literally happened last week.
Give some air to let that breathe. For those that are watching, just for a minute, just let it breathe. Take our words, and understand that you are so valuable and so necessary and so needed
Here, above ground,
here. Yeah.
above ground.
I think the last topic I want to cover tonight, guys, is
Can you give me 1 second?
yeah.
All right.
Um we'll give Sodeb a minute. Um but I really think, that if you are just joining us and you find yourself in a situation that is domestic violence related, please check out the ticker at the bottom of the screen. Please go to the hotline.org. Um, and it is abuse in LGBTQIA plus communities. However, anyone I'm sure can reach out to them and they can give you the information necessary. You can check out 1-800-799-SAFE, or you can text START to 88788 if you find yourself in any kind of domestic violence situation. Um,
I,
whew.
I pray so hard. Um, I have four younger sisters who are now not, they're in their early 20s.
Mhm.
I pray so hard for them to not fall victim to this type of demon. Like
Yeah,
like I said, being in that family that sweeps things under the rugs, um, those traumas are definitely not talked about. And I just pray that they have that. I do my best to keep an open line of communication with them, but sometimes it works better when it's coming from the direct source, not
yeah,
someone who's sitting in the audience with them.
yeah,
So like I said, I pray daily that the men they encounter or the men they fall in love with are the right ones to complement the amazing strides that they. When I tell you I ride or die for my sisters, if y'all have seen me on social media, my four younger sisters, I swear anything they want they got. Anything they need, like it's not even a question. Because I always told them growing up, if they can't measure up to what I do for you, he ain't the one.
Mm-hmm.
Like I make sure that they know that they're beautiful, that they're loved, and appreciated, and they're needed, and I uplift them to the fullest. Anything they're doing, I'm supporting. And I just want them to go into this world just knowing that they are some beautiful queens, because we have some beautiful women out here that can fall victim and prey to these type of evils. And it just saddens my soul sometimes, because it's just like, look how, what if you just complimented her, or what if you just complimented him? Look at the look at the possibilities. Think about the possibilities that y'all could do together if y'all were uplifting each other. But instead, for some reason, somebody in the relationship has an ego trip where they have to be above, feel superior,
Mhm.
and they only get their power by putting that person down, putting the other person down. Like, how big is your ego then? If you have to push other people down around you to be lifted up, like that don't make sense to me. And if you're an abuser out there, get on this line. Make it make sense to me. Like, what are your contributions to your community, to this world, to your family and friends around you? Because you're weak. You're weak and pathetic. Because you, and I promise you, 9 times out of 10, those abusers are loved and adored out here in the community. Y'all put on this picture perfect show that you are this this amazing person. Like, you just do all this, but behind closed doors, you become a whole different person. Be your true colors. If you're so big and bad behind those closed doors, come on out to the light and do that. I bet you won't. You're small and broken too. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that.
Mhm.
The problem lies when you just sit there and just lie in it. Instead of having the courage to do something about it, talk to someone, reach out for help, recognize that you have a problem and you are hurting people out here for no damn reason. I am sorry. I'm sorry. I'm about to be on. I'm sorry. My bad. I feel like I'm sorry.
You was on the right path, though. I mean, well, you on the right path.
Whew.
But it's real, though. People don't understand that they're hurting people, especially through all the trauma that they've been through in life. So they just put it off on other people. They're hurt off of other people. And at the end of the day, who does that help?
Nobody.
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 Everybody gets hurt. And then what happens next?
I think the last topic I want to kind of cover tonight before we um, get out of here is forgiveness. What does that look like for someone that has survived domestic violence? What does that look like for someone that has been the abuser? Not necessarily asking for forgiveness, not necessarily needing forgiveness to move forward, but let's cover, what the forgiveness is necessary. Pink Diamond, I put this in the comments, and I think it's something, an area and aspect that we should definitely touch on terms of, once you have come out of the situation, because I
Mhm.
think a lot of us have come out of some situation where we have seen some type of domestic violence or abuse in that aspect. Um, what does forgiveness look like? What does life look like after the violence, after the situation?
I think it all looks like for the person who's been abused. I can't really speak for the abuser. I really can't. But I think it looks like for the person who has been abused, what is it like for you? How do you handle it and what are you going to do about it? At what point do you come up out of this for yourself? Because you can sit and be sorry about it your entire life, let it affect your relationships with everyone else. But until you stand up for yourself and say, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm going to do counseling. I'll speak my affirmations in my mirror. Um, I'm not going to be treated like this by nobody else. It comes back to you, which is very unfair. but it comes back to you as the person who has been abused. I have to speak affirmation to myself. I have to go get help for myself because most people that abuse you ain't going to come and apologize to you. So then it becomes a you're exploring yourself as to what you really want out of life at this point. And you're going to blame God, you're going to blame everything, but it still comes back down to you as to what steps you're going to take, which is why, again, I went through my counseling, which is why I do have my affirmations I say every morning in my mirror. Because at the end of the day, people ain't going to be able to take me down like that. Yes, you may have bad days, but at the end of the day, you're a human being who has been through trauma. You're going to have those days, but you still pick yourself back up and you go through that counseling session or you speak those affirmations to yourself and you let yourself know, I'm not going to receive this from no one. I'm going to speak life into myself. Because a lot of times you're not going to get what you want from the person who has abused you. It's a hard pill to swallow, but it's real.
In terms of forgiveness, we've tossed around the cliche to some people that forgiveness is for you and not the other person. I think we use it and I say that as a cliche because it's such a common phrase now that people toss around. But I think this particular topic of conversation is a perfect example as to why forgiveness is for you and not the other person.
Absolutely.
Right? You're not seeking forgiveness from them for the actions or the things that they have done, whether it was verbal, physical, emotional, financial, what have you. But you are really seeking forgiveness for allowing yourself to put yourself in that space, in that position.
And be clear, even if you didn't put yourself in that position, you were still there. You were present in that situation.
And that's what I mean. Not that you put yourself in it.
Yeah, maybe if you were a younger person, you couldn't do it, but you still at some point have to forgive yourself for even being in that space. And this is the part that's really hard because as let's say as me being a child being through my sexual abuse, right? I can't really do anything about it. But as an adult, I can hold myself responsible and say, I'm not going to live my life every day being traumatized by this. I'm not going to live my life every day being miserable about this, right? I got to take responsibility and say, you ain't take me down. I'm fighting for me now, right? I don't care if the person has passed away, the person won't ever apologize to me. I have to take responsibility for myself and say, I won't live my life like this. And I think that's where this conversation I wanted to be at, because that's where forgiveness comes from. It don't come from anybody else. It comes from me. Where I won't do it. I can't live my life this way.
Yeah.
And I think that's hard for a lot of people because we want to keep blaming the person when this person could be sick. This person could be there's going to be so many problems with this person, but why would I torture myself for the rest of my life because someone didn't know how to control themselves?
Forgiveness is the gift that you give yourself.
Yes.
That is the gift that you give yourself in order for you to live the life that you see fit and that you deem for yourself to live.
Right.
And I think it's necessary, in any relationship, romantic, we say friendships, whatever the case is, forgiveness is what you give yourself. And the only way that you can move forward while you can hang on to it as long as you like, but the
It don't
only
do
way for
nothing.
you it doesn't, and you're carrying it. Here's the thing.
Yeah.
You're carrying it, and they're moved on with
They
their
moved on.
lives. They've done, they're doing whatever they want to do with their lives, but you are responsible for your peace of mind, for your well-being, for your physical well-being, for your mental well-being. You are responsible for all of those areas and aspects. You're also responsible for what you allow in your atmosphere. You are responsible you take responsibility and ownership for that. I say that all the time. And I think that it's necessary for you to make sure that you are giving yourself, you're setting yourself up for success. What does that look like? Well, setting yourself up for success is looking at areas and aspects where forgiveness needs to be given. And if it comes from you, then you'll be able to go through the process in order to be able to heal and do what's necessary for you to come out and be successful. I really think that, seeking forgiveness is also part of the first steps to healing in this area, in this aspect. E, did you have anything you wanted to comment on forgiveness?
Choose you.
A long time ago, I forgave my father for everything. I never personally told him, but I felt like it was something I needed to do, say out loud, and just to deal with, just to help me. And I had to look at the situation a little differently. You know, I don't know what his upbringing was like. I can't blame him for not knowing or understanding the ways to raise a child like me. Um, I know he had demons of his own, and like I said, I have an older father too, so it was a different time, it was a different lifestyle. It was the ways of the world were completely different, and I can sit down and look at it and understand it and realize he wasn't set up for success. No one pointed him in the right direction. No one told him, which avenues to travel to be wholesome or humble or appreciative or loving and caring. You know, because I realized I met him with that a lot of times, and he took that as weakness. So I got a little bit of understanding, like this is the man who most likely couldn't be vulnerable. He couldn't be empathetic. He couldn't be loving and caring. So he isn't. So what does he try to do with someone who is? He tries to toughen him up or make him strong, make him hard. That's not me. Well, not in that way. So I forgive him for trying to do whatever he thought was right. And I hope that he finds forgiveness in himself for the lives that he damaged. Because he didn't destroy me. I'm still here. I ain't going nowhere. Neither are my sisters or my brothers. We're here. Our stories will help our children and help their children, and so on and so on. We could have kept that. We could have kept a negative legacy going easily, kept it going, but we didn't. And I can look at my siblings, and I can see the strides that we make, and that we're continuing to make. Even with me being on here right now talking about this right here, because there was a time when I wouldn't talk about it to nobody. So I'm here, I'm alive, I'm well, and like SoDebNair said, it's not easy. I have my days, I have my moments, but I damn sure don't live in it.
Mm-hmm.
But those are moments. Moments. I refuse to go out here and relive that hurt and put it on somebody else. Do I want to be treated? Do I want to be treated that way? Do I want to feel that way? Absolutely not. So I'd be damned if I go out here and put it on somebody else. What I look like giving away feelings I don't want.
Right.
Age old saying, just you gotta treat people the way you want to be treated. Sometimes it's just that damn simple. All right, let me get off my soapbox. Because all I'm gonna do is wash dishes with these tears.
Listen. Well, I want to thank you guys for being vulnerable tonight. I know that it's not our typical.
Do this, right?
we don't normally do this, but it's not a typical conversation, but it's a necessary conversation, and I really feel like it's going to help anyone that watches it in the future. And it has really kind of hit nerves for people to kind of assess their own lives and assess where they are. And so thank you, gentlemen, for allowing Atlanta Black Pride to come in and do our takeover for our podcast on a Thursday night.
Next time they better send some tissues.
Right. We'll make sure we bring some tissues.
A sponsorship from Kleenex or something.
I don't think I've ever cried on the podcast before. But.
Not on the live. It's been a while. It has been a long time. We want to close out on a couple of things. Number one, if you or anyone you know
you didn't want to
abused.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. Okay. You said you want to do something. I was about to ask you where we doing it, but go ahead.
Oh,
no. Okay. Okay.
No, I think this is a good space for us to let it be. If you or anyone you know is being abused, please pass on the information or go to www.thehotline.org. You can also call their 1-800 number, which is 1-800-799-SAFE. That's 7233. Or you can text START, simply the word START, START, to 88788. I want to thank Amber Moore, the vice president of Atlanta Black Pride, and the sponsors, Swank Arts and Entertainment, Affairs of the Heart, Atlanta Pride, The Clays, and Paid V for sponsoring this week of domestic violence awareness for this series. Please go to atlantablackpride.org to find other content that is happening within the next 2 weeks leading up to the last day of October. And the next live broadcast on Facebook and YouTube will be October 26th rather, where there'll be a discussion with the transgender community and domestic violence. It's a virtual conversation that is going to be moderated by Sebastian Smith of the National Center of Transgender Equality. And then also on the 27th, the LGBTQIA plus and domestic violence, a virtual conversation moderated by a friend of our show, Dr. Rainier Amin, a friend and our sister of our show. She's going to moderate that for them. So please head over to atlantablackpride.org for all of the content that they're going to create this week. And again, if you know anybody that is facing domestic violence or needs help, please share this podcast with them, share this video with them, or share the information that was given. Again, guys, thank you so much for being vulnerable, for being open, and being willing to have this conversation and making thugs cry on YouTube. That's what, what we do.
On a positive note, though,
we can. Come on.
Easy's birthday is coming up.
It is Saturday is Easy's birthday. If you are in the DC area, please hit up Easy. I think he has an array of things that are happening this Saturday. You can check out his page for all of his parties. I know you're having something on Saturday. What else you have going on?
I'm going to be somewhere.
I went last week. I would have came there this week for that.
We're not going to get into that.
No, I was in Baltimore, but I would have not went to Baltimore. I came to DC for your birthday party. But I just saw that like 2 days ago, like today, I think.
My birthday is actually on Monday, the 25th. I am celebrating with some old friends of mine. Y'all know I used to be a club promoter, and we're going to do it how we used to do back in the day. So I got parties lined up on tomorrow night. The big party on Saturday is going to be a stadium nightclub. So if you want to come see the Clappers, come see them. They're going to be there live and in person. It's going to be a lot. You got men and women. So you got what you want. You got what you want at stadium. So come on.
What's your Cash App, Easy?
Cash App, Easy Said.
Is this Easy Said?
A little $sign that Easy Said.
Okay, I'm gonna put it in the chat.
Oh,
so if y'all want a Cash App Easy, y'all can definitely do that for his birthday.
Oh, we got an after party too on Saturday at Hard Rock Cafe. We done rented out the place. We got a live band and DJ, the whole 9 yards. There's a big brunch going on Sunday for me, as well as a night party too. So we're going till like 2-3 in the morning on Sunday. So yeah.
Well, if you are in the DC area or the DMV, please go celebrate with Easy Said, Easy Done. Head over to Easy Said, Easy Done on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and IG. He's everywhere. If you want information, please send him a Cash App to buy him a drink for his birthday. Easy, we love you. We appreciate you.
We love you too. And also shout out to Xavier Entertainment and Omega Entertainment for putting on all these events. Like, it's going to be bananas, and so come get pissy drunk with me too. Shit.
You are not. You're getting 39.
Who?
Anthony said 39 looks good on you.
I am 35. Well, I'll be 35 on Monday. No disrespect to the 39-year-olds in the group. I'm just saying.
First of all,
I'm not there. I'm just saying I'm not there yet.
I'm not 39.
I'm almost 40 and I still look good.
I know disrespect. I'm trying to get to you.
Because the skin is giving everything on the screen. Nobody was gonna say anything, but I'm gonna pat myself on the back.
You're shining bright.
Right.
Shine bright like a diamond.
Thank you. But again, happy birthday, E. And we will see you guys. We only have a couple more episodes left before we close out the season. And so we will see you guys next week. Again, thank you for hanging in with us tonight.
And we will be here next week.
That's what his mouth said. So as long as his mouth said that we're gonna be here next week, we're gonna take it at face value that we're gonna be here next week. We love you guys. We appreciate you again.
Really different.
Bye, y'all. Bye.
Thank you, Atlanta Black Pride.
Now he want to log off.
Thank you, Atlanta Black Pride. We love you guys so much. We appreciate you. We'll see you guys next week, Thursday, same time, same place, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the Affairs of Heart podcast. Good night, guys.
Bye, y'all.
Yes.